Story. The boys were hurried out of the room in perfectly tailored suits, and picked up again by the little girl who hurried them along. Your crew will all be there by now. The final phase begins in 15 minutes. The game master will be nearing the building as we speak. We have to hurry it up or we'll miss it. The two men had no clue what she was talking about, but they went along with it, following her down the packed streets to a side entrance in the giant stadium. They jogged through the halls and staircases, eventually winding up outside a guarded door. The man standing by it knocked 3 times and it was opened, revealing the entire crew, minus the captain, laid out on the other side. Zoro and Sanji were led through and placed in the 2 seats next to Nami. "Morning, boys," she said, waving. Sanji promptly passed out, and Zoro let him drop to the floor before dragging him over to the couch and throwing him on. "Bloody pervert," he muttered, taking his seat beside the navigator. "How did you guys go?" "We got strung up over the pits," Usopp said matter-of-factly. "But I can assure you that it didn't faze me at all. I had full faith in Robin's ability." This indicated to Zoro that Usopp was crapping himself and Robin saved his ass. "Right," Zoro said, "and you, navigator?" "Well, we had to find our way here through what they called the Sea of Grass, but I slept through most of it, so I'm not really sure." Zoro nodded. As the group faded into silence and Sanji sat himself down on the chair, the stadium began to still. There was a loud bang as the doors opposite them were thrown open and a man strode out, arms raised. A massive roar rose from the crowd, which quickly died down as the man began to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the final phase." This was followed by another massive cheer. Now, I know you're all excited, but save your voices for the match. So far, this crew of 7 has demonstrated excellent intelligence, strength, navigation skills and stamina. Will the captain be able to live up to the expectations the crew has set so high? How will he fight, and how long will he last in the stadium? This cheer was the loudest yet, and carried on as the man strode across the field and disappeared below the glass panel. As he entered, there were 3 knocks on the door and 2 people entered. One was a man and the other was a woman. Both were extremely beautiful. They took a seat, one on either end of the bench, and watched the stadium, looking ecstatic. Shortly after, a man appeared. As soon as he entered the room, it was clear to the others that he was person of authority. It was portrayed in the way he breathed, the way he moved. "Hello there," he said, smiling. "I am the game master. What a pleasure it is to meet you all." The crew watched him as he approached and sat in the center chair. "Hey," said Nami, knowing this was a guy they wanted to be on good terms with. He picked up one of the transponder snails and winked at them. "You guys are gonna want to watch this," he warned, before turning to address the crowd through the glass, speaking into the transponder snail. "Once again, I thank all of you for coming. It has been a true pleasure to watch this crew in action, but it's about time for the finale. Please give a warm welcome to Captain Monkey D. Luffy." At his announcement, a figure dressed in black wandered onto the field, beaming. The crew knew right away that this was their captain. He carried a giant club, but was otherwise unarmed. The crowd flew into a fit, screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs. Luffy looked surprised to see so many people and only just seemed to realize that he was alone in the middle of a giant field. Promoted stories. You'll also like The Heart and Soul of Monkey D. Luffy. 1p. 1.5k 63. This story follows Luffy after a fateful encounter with a seemingly ordinary 18-year-old girl named Arya. Tragic circumstances lead to Arya joining Luffy's ragtag pirate. Mysterious Girl on the Straw Hat Ship 1. 8.6k 453. YN. A kind, Lovely and beautiful girl who died while saving puppy god transmigrat into world of pirates. She also have unique power, as long as she wish any anime power. 3D2YA One Piece Fanfic. 368K 6.2K. Luffy stumbles upon Nami by chance on a small island after the crew was separated at Sabayati Archipelago. The two decide to train together, but then comes the warm, weird My Brother's Keepsake, Sabo X Reader. 126K 4.8K. After the death of Portgas D. Ace, the Navy wished to prevent the continuation of the bloodline of the Pirate King. They send soldiers to an island on the Grand Line where, let me help you, a Luffy x Nami fanfic. 209K 2.5K. After Luffy's battle with Doflamingo at Dressrosa, Luffy is now once again reunited with Sabo. Reuniting with Sabo somehow made Luffy remember about Ace and had a Ryuk. A pirate with one punch. 27.5K 1K. One Piece XOPM. Reader. And quat, YN and quat. Degree, degree, degree. Filled circle, hollow circle degree. Degree, degree. Let me protect you Ace X Fem Reader. 51,121. You know, after you're done with all your business here on this island, would you like to, maybe, join our crew? For real this time. And quat, he smiles ho. Well, Captain, welcome to the stadium, the game master said. The rules are fairly simple. All you have to do is fight. You have 10 levels, and the difficulty increases as they go along. We will start at Gate 1. It will give you your first challenger. If you defeat it, by which I mean render it unconscious or unable to fight, or, if possible, it admits defeat, you will go straight on to the next fight. Is this clear? From on the field, Luffy gave the man a thumbs up, noticing his crew in the windows and giving a little wave. Okay, on my count, open Gate 1. Ready, 10, 9, 8, 7, at this point, the crowd joined in. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, open the gates, the crowd bellowed. There was a pinging noise, followed by the sound of grinding, and a huge beast of a lion charged into the arena, heading straight for Luffy. The captain watched it with a look of boredom on his face. The beast moved impossibly fast, and Nami started to regret the things she had told her captain to do as he left her room that morning. But she needn't have worried. The beast made a lunge for the captain and he simply raised the club and brought it down over the beast's head, making it look easy. After a few seconds of stunned silence from the crowd, the second gate opened and a giant eagle glided out, circling the sky. At this point, the crown came out of shock and began to mutter. So did the game master. What is this? He said. This boy has just unceremoniously beaten Franco with a single hit. He is straight on to get two. The eagle squawked fiercely and dove for the captain, who went to pull the same move as before. This time, however, the bird managed to evade his attack, but was sent spinning into the wire barrier separating the spectators from the fight. It slid to the ground and stood back up, rising shakily back into the air and swirling again, regaining its strength. It went in for a second dive, this time faster and more precise. Luffy stayed dead still until the last second, at which point he danced out of the way and spun around midair, bringing the club down over his head and driving the bird into the ground. It lay there twitching for a while before going limp. The crowd gasped and cheered, continuing to mutter and point. He has done it again. How does this kid do it? The game master asked. The third gate opened, and this time, rather than a beast, there was a man. Well, he may be able to bring down our beasts, but is this kid able to hold his own against the captains who have failed before him? The man said, provoking the audience into another burst of cheering. The man bellowed and ran forwards, sword raised above his head. Luffy picked up his club and braced himself, meeting the sword his own weapon one-handed and swinging a punch with the other fist. The man dropped his sword and raised his arms, blocking the punch. Luffy didn't relent. He jumped back and swung the club. It hit the man's already prepared arms and there was an audible crack that echoed through the stadium. The man let out a cry of pain and doubled over in agony. "Forfeit," he called, and two men ran in from the opposite door and dragged him out. As soon as he was out of the ring, the fourth door opened and a second man ran out. Rather than a sword, this one carried an axe. Luffy swung his club and shattered the weapon in one blow, but he misjudged his power and ended up snapping his own weapon in two. The man jumped back as Luffy lashed out with the handle of the weapon he held in his hand. The blow connected with the man's raised forearm and sunk into it. The man cried out and scrambled back, clutching at his arm, but still determined to win. "What power!" the game master cried. "This boy has taken out one of our captains and just shattered two metal weapons with the force of one attack. Is our contestant from Gate 4 going to be able to bring him down? He is terribly injured, and Luffy has not taken a single blow." The man gritted his teeth and charged forwards, throwing a punch at Luffy. The captain ducked, but he didn't see the kick that had been thrown at him at the same time. He tried to roll out of the way, but the blow connected with Knee's shin. The man yelped in pain and clutched his toes. Luffy just chuckled, spinning back around and launching his own attack. He showered the man with blows, tearing up the ground beneath him and creating a dust cloud. When the dust settled, it revealed a bloodied heap on the ground with Luffy standing over him, one hand on his hat and the other curled into a fist by his side. He turned his head to grin up at the game master, stepping back to allow the medics to drag the body away from his feet. What an effort from Gate 4, but he was no match for this boy. He has, however, taken his first hit, and somehow managed to destroy his own weapon in the process. From behind the glass, the crew smirked. "Do you really think that's going to slow him down?" Nami chuckled. "Hell, he'll probably do better without the damn thing," Zoro added. The game master turned to them, shocked. "Really?" he asked. "Is he a fist fighter?" "You could say that," Nami said, shooting a warning look at the others. She didn't want this man to find out that Luffy had devil fruit powers, or she was afraid they'd be accused of cheating or that they would be penalized for it. It was for this reason that she had told him not to use his ability unless it was absolutely necessary. The man turned back to the transponder snail. "Well, you guys know what time it is," he said. "We're halfway through the challenge, which means it is time for the members of the team without bounties to introduce themselves." A cheer came up from the crowd, and the crew turned to the man, shocked. Luffy too, from down on the field. Sensing that he had a break, he sat down on the floor and crossed his arms, staring up through the glass. "Well, guess I'll go first," Sanji said, grabbing a snail. "Hey," he said, clearly trying to impress the ladies. "The name's Vinsmoke Sanji, and I'm one of the best cooks around. I'm the fifth member of this crew." He passed the mic on to Usopp. "Hello there, commoners, I'm sure you have all heard of me. I go by many names: Usopp the Manly, Usopp the Brave, Usopp the King, Captain Usopp, Lord of the Seas, the list goes on." He began. The crew let out an audible groan. "I have traveled the seas for my entire life. ADN, after many adventures, decided to help out this crew by joining them on their adventure, and, well, let's just say that I got attached. As for my place, I am the fourth member of this crew." He handed the snail to the chopper. Hi, Chopper stuttered. "I'm Chopper, the doctor. I'm the sixth member of this crew." He hurriedly passed the snail on to Nami, who grinned. "Hey, I'm Nami, the final bountiless member of this crew. I'm the navigator, and I'm technically the third member of the crew, However, you could also say that I'm the fifth, as I traveled with them when it was only Zoro and the captain, and was there when they recruited Usopp and Sanji, but did not officially join until after then. That's not true, Luffy shouted from on the field. You've been our navigator since you started traveling with us, stupid. Well, there you go, Nami chuckled. My name is Nami and I am the third member of this crew. She passed the snail back to the game master. Would you look at that, he said. Of the 7 members, 3 have bounties on their heads. The crowd let out a gasp. Well, it's time to open the 6th gate. The competition is about to get serious, folks, as our next fight will be a fist fight. The 6th gate slid open and there stood a girl, clad in boxing gloves. She looked to be in her 30s. Luffy stood up as she paced towards him and started circling. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, our only female contestant. You better watch her carefully, because as soon as she starts moving, you won't be able to keep up. And sure enough, she lunged for the captain. Luffy leant out of the way and returned with a counter-strike. The two began exchanging blows, moving faster and faster until, eventually, nobody could keep up with them. Another dust cloud began to form around them as they continued to fight. Only the crew caught what happened next. The two launched a particularly strong blow, both of which connected. This sent both contestants flying backwards onto the dirt. The boxer flew much further than the captain, who hit the ground and rolled, and ended up in a crumpled heap on the ground. Luffy climbed to his feet, cracking his knuckles and waiting for his opponent to get to her feet. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time since we've seen someone who can match blows with our Gate 6 and come out on top. I wonder, in her condition, will our fighter be fit to continue fighting? The crew leaned forwards on their seats, curious about how much longer the captain could go without resorting to his usual fighting style. As the girl pulled herself to her feet, swaying, the game master turned to Nami. He looked deep in thought. That captain of yours, he said. He's not going all out, is he? Nami was shocked. How do you mean? She asked. Well, he's more powerful than he's portraying, right? Nami nodded. You could say that. The man smiled. I appreciated he's putting on a good show either way. Nami breathed a silent sigh of relief. Meanwhile, the fight was beginning to ramp back up. The girl had started to recover and was circling Luffy again. This time, however, the captain had his hands in his pockets and was standing dead still. Once she got behind him, the girl launched another attack, this time beginning much faster than she had started the last time. But the captain didn't move. Nami's brows furrowed in confusion. What is he planning? She muttered. Then it clicked. She sat back, grinning. Oi, you guys, she said, talking past the game master to the rest of the crew. Watch, I've seen this move before. It's quite cool to watch. And sure enough, the captain switched his brain off. The girl continued to throw punch after punch, but the captain dodged them all with his hands in his pockets, doing nothing but swaying side to side. What is he doing? The game master asked Nami. The rest of the crew also turned to her for an explanation. He switched his brain off. What you're seeing here is purely Luffy's reflexes and instincts, she said. The gang all let out an awe of realization, turning back to watch their captain sway back and forth. The game master looked astounded, a look that faded into incredulousness soon after. There's no way, he muttered. After a while, the girl's punches started to slow down. The transition was clear as day. 1 minute Luffy's mind was missing and the next. It was there. Luffy's strategic swaying turned into one sudden movement and he attacked with an uppercut that connected straight with the woman's jaw and sent her flying back into the cage, unconscious. The medics once again rushed forwards and dragged her out. Could this be this boy's full potential? The game master asked the crowd. Is this what he's been hiding from us? Or is he just now starting to get warmed up? It's hard to tell, but either way, that was one hell of a match. Finally, after 6 gates, the captain has taken a bit of damage and is looking slightly out of breath. This was a bit of an overstatement. The punch the girl had hit Luffy with was nothing compared to previous blows he had taken. Not only this, but not using his brain was second nature for Luffy. It didn't take an excessive amount of energy, so he wasn't exactly panting. Still, he looked slightly roughed up, and that was something. Suddenly, a thought occurred to Nami. Wait, Chopper, she started, but the grinding of the 7th gate beat her to it. I bet you guys have missed seeing our Gate 7 in action. The game master hyped up the crowd. After all, it's not every day you get to see a devil fruit in use. The crew froze. Wait, did you say devil fruit? Usopp asked, looking nervous. That's right, replied the game master. You watch. The man stepped into the ring and began to bob up and down. The crowd seemed to know what was going on, and they sucked in a shared breath. A slow chant rose from inside the ring, in time to the bobbing. Bounce, 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 bounce. It was clear Luffy was getting impatient still. The man remained where he was. Bounce, 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 bounce. Finally, Luffy snapped, charging at the man with his right fist raised and his left hand resting on it. He let out a yell as he sent the punch rocketing at the man, but just as it was about to connect, he vanished. Well, clearly he didn't. T vanished because Luffy was able to follow him, but he began to jump about the room, springing from wall to wall and picking up speed. Occasionally, Luffy would duck or jump, and eventually, the man collided with his shoulder, sending him flying. Bounce, 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 bounce. The crowd was now chanting. Luffy quickly rolled out of the way, just in time to avoid being trampled. The man came back again and again while Luffy was on the ground, and he continued to roll out of the way, looking frantic now. To be quite honest, it's impressive enough that this boy is able to follow our Gate 7 contestant. He is moving too fast for the average human to be able to see. Luffy let out a yell and stuck his arm in the air, grabbing the man and flinging him into the ground. He used the momentum to throw himself into the air and regain his footing, and panted as the man lay there, almost completely embedded in the ground. What is this? The boy has been able to bring down our Gate 7. The man stood back up, slowly, and began to bob once again. The crowd adjusted their chant to match his timing. Bounce, 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 bounce. Luffy let out an aggravated yell and charged forwards. The man took off, bouncing to the opposite wall and then straight back. Luffy didn't have time to move before he crashed into. The man bounced off him and was back again before Luffy could hit the ground. This bombardment continued for about 8 hits until Luffy managed to land a blow on him. The hit sent him spiraling into a wall, but he landed on his feet and continued to bounce, once again picking up speed. Luffy slowly got to his feet, swaying a bit and stood there breathing heavily. The man continued to dart around him, but he didn't move. The man hit the wall opposite him and reached his maximum speed, launching himself at Luffy. Luffy simply raised his arm and brought it down over the man. He was driven so far into the floor only his legs were visible, twitching. The medics ran forwards and tried to pull him out. When they couldn't, Luffy stepped forwards, placed one hand on his leg, and wrenched him out of the ground, dumping him at the feet of the medics who grabbed him and scurried off, intimidated by this show of strength. He did it, the game master cried. No ordinary human I know could ever have seen that attack coming. I know he's shaken up, but the survival rate of the challenges are quite significant. 9% loose round 1, 18 in round 2, 27 in round 3. This continues until round 5, where there is a 45% death rate. From there, it goes up to 10. This means that the chance of this man having lost by now is 75%. This, however, is inaccurate. In actual fact, the numbers are much less evenly spaced, and only 11% have actually made it past stage 7. The crowd applauded, and the gate opened. Sanji and Zoro gasped as they recognized the beast that slithered out of it. That's, Zoro muttered. Angel. Sanji confirmed. Robin turned her head in interest. So you boys have already beaten that thing? She asked. Sanji nodded. Well, we were about to, but the people told us not to. I guess this is why. But I really don't think Luffy can beat that thing, especially without reverting to that. What do you mean that? The game master asked, but the group shushed him. What makes you say that? Nami asked. Zoro grimaced. I can't cut it. It should have been diced to ribbons, but it didn't even leave a mark. My attacks didn't do anything either. Sanji admitted. The brute hardly even noticed them. The crew paled. Oh crap. They muttered. The snake slithered out of its hole.